ask you something. Let's start with what's been in the news most recently, the CU-CSU game.
Yep.
They're laughing.
You were very aggressive with your comments, if I can use that word.
I didn't think I was aggressive.
No, but it did stir things up a little bit.
Yep.
Are you sorry that you said any of the things you said?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Let everybody know exactly where you stand on the CU-CSU thing.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this was a question that I got, and what we were trying to do is inform our ticket holders that we've heard them. We're going to give you an option if you're tired of going to that game in Denver. We've heard so much about that we're going to give you an option to take the value of that ticket and buy it. So we wanted to get ahead of the story. Well, we didn't try to upstage signing day like some people thought we did. It was just the timing was right. We were going out the next day with our renewals, and then got asked the question about the series, and I just said at this point we have no intention of extending our agreement past 2020.
Why?
Just because there's other things that we have to look at. We want to reschedule. We want to upgrade our schedule. Not that CSU wouldn't be an upgrade, but for us to play in Denver home and home doesn't make a lot of sense to us. I think that game should be back on campus. I do think we should play in Denver from time to time when it makes sense, when we can fill the stadium, when we can generate the revenue and the exposure for the program that we need. But
when you say upgrade the schedule, Rick, a lot of people will take that as you saying CSU might not be worthy. Are you talking about going to a Power 5 conference opponent?
No, I think what we've got to look at as we get to 2020, and part of our thought process is, they're going to start, what we're hearing is they're going to start going to the RPI like they do in basketball.
Right.
And so we've got to look at our strength of schedule. And if you look out there, what's been going on is a lot of the Power 5 conferences are scheduling home and home games amongst themselves. And frankly, we need to, we've got Nicholls State and Massachusetts, and we need to upgrade our schedule. So we're looking at everything. So for me to say 5 years from now exactly what we're going to do, and that's why I said at this time we have no intention of extending the agreement. We don't at this point, but that doesn't mean in a year or 2 years as we're looking at our schedule, but we're starting to schedule for 2021 and beyond. Our last game is in Fort Collins against CSU. So our last game in Denver is actually 2019.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, and I got to say it straight out. I was one of the proponents of bringing it here. I still would like to see it here every year, ongoing. But the reality is the people who ran it didn't do a very good job. The Sports Commission, they didn't sell it out. And I always maintain that you give tickets to high school football teams and you make it affordable for people in the community that normally couldn't pay to see a big-time college football game because you had 25, 30,000 seats, and you weren't part of that. So I don't disagree. And I got told years ago, and it made more sense in the world to me, that the businesses that support you in Boulder don't get that Saturday. And that's a big money Saturday for them. So I don't disagree with any of that. And I also don't disagree. I sound like I'm saying it. I think in 2020, we don't know what's going to happen because we've seen an upheaval in college football and changes in conferences and everything.
Yeah, who knows what the conferences are going to look like by then.
I don't have any problem with you saying we don't know what we're going to do past 2020. But I think there is a possibility here, and CSU's going to build a new stadium. They're probably going to want to play their game at home when they build a new stadium. But I hate to see, and you brought it up, I hate to see Denver without a major college football game. And what I'm fearful of, and I know this is a long statement, but I'm saying I had no problem with anything you said. But I told him one day, and maybe it's not important enough to them, but the state legislature in other states could be followed here where they force you because you are relying on the legislature to provide a lot of funding for what's going on.
Well, the funding's not as much as it used to be, and it's actually going down significantly. Yeah. So
the president of the university told me that each year you have to go in and beg for money from the state legislature, and each year they keep giving less to the state.
And I'm not real good at politics at times, but we're looking at this, from what's best for our program, and as I said, I think coming to Denver is a good thing for us when it makes sense. And
would it be possible then, pardon me for interrupting it, let's say that it were UCLA, that you move that game to Denver because it might be a game that would attract 70,000 because both teams are
Well, like an Oregon
playing the-
game as an example, and you know, Oregon travels a lot, or if you play in Nebraska, which we're doing in 2018, which we know, you know, that'll kind of heat up that rivalry again, you know, that we've had, and we know there'll be a lot of people from Nebraska wanting to come to the game. So there's going to be options, and then as we look at scheduling, we're looking at some scheduling where we're going to play top-rated, you know, Power 5 conference teams to start the year that we may want to play in Denver. And for me, that's going to be better for Denver because it's going to bring a lot of exposure. And two, they're going to stay in hotels maybe 2 or 3 nights versus maybe 1 night and come in here and eat and those kind of things. So I think there's a lot of benefit to having that. And I think there's some things that we can do basketball-wise with the Pepsi Center.
Yeah, and I always pushed for that. North Carolina, Dean Smith brought his team in because he had a background at the Air Force Academy, and he played here, and it didn't really draw. But again, I think it's promotion, and Dave Platty and I've talked about before. The people who are putting it on have got to do a job for you. And Visit Denver, which my daughter works for, has kind of moved into that area now. But I think, and I wish you had made that point. I'm going to tell you, if you'd have made that point about, or got lost about bringing other teams to Denver and talking about Nebraska, if you'd have said Colorado, Nebraska playing in Denver, that would have probably been the lead of the story. If
Right.
you said,
And it was just a response to a question, and it got blown out of proportion. And then now it was all of a sudden on, you know, National Signing Day, and the intent was just to let our season ticket holders know what was going on. That when they got their renewals packet on Thursday, the day after signing date, that they were going to have their option to either attend the game against CSU or utilize the value of that ticket to buy tickets. And we've got a great home schedule. We've got USC, we've got Stanford, Oregon, Arizona, got a great home schedule this year. So it makes sense, and we have inventory that we can do that. And about 24% of our season ticket holders have already opted to buy another ticket to one of our home games.